I'm glad I hiccuped before you, like.
Okay, we are finally live. I thought this was an interesting reading about Brazil, but as I was reading through it, I thought, who are they kidding? I mean, it doesn't seem to be much different for ethnicities in Brazil than it does the United States.
Yeah.
I guess the only weird part to me is that Brazil, you can change your ethnicity.
To make it work in your advantage is what I got.
Yeah, I got that too. I mean, I guess you can in America. We had the lady who claimed that she was African American and she was as Caucasian as I am.
Yeah.
And she did submit that, like, she submitted a complaint to her college when she identified as Caucasian that they were being racist against her for being white. Which is, like, confusing to me a little bit, considering the fact that she, like, switched and she was like, well, you're racist to me for being black now. And I'm like, make up your mind, lady.
Well, the college that she was applying to was an all-black college.
Yeah, so here again, she went with what worked for her at the time. Yeah. So it was advantageous.
Well, my husband has a saying that people who want to be offended are seldom disappointed.
I like that.
So, yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get reading on the questions here and see what we can come up with tonight. The first question, because of Brazil's highly diverse system, they have a very complicated racial classification system from page 431. What do you think the racial classification system will look like in the United States in 50 years? I mean, I did have to think about that. And like I said, I don't see a whole lot of difference now between Brazil and the United States. I'm just going to read the answer that I have. The classification of ethnicities is becoming more and more complex. I could see the racial classification system being abandoned altogether. However, the need to classify people seems to be hardwired into us as humans. So I can see the continuation of the check the box method or a fill in the blank classification system as citizens of the United States become more and more individually, ethnically diverse.
I like your answer. I will say that as long as I've been alive, I know that they've been telling us that soon there'll be only one race of people will all be the same. And I don't believe that that's going to happen. I mean, I'm sorry. They've been saying that for 20 years now, 30 years, and we are still quite a diverse population. And part of that is because we choose to be segregated and be with people who are like us. And it's becoming less, but in 50 years, I think you'll still have a diverse population, my personal opinion.
I think maybe in 50 years, there will just be an expansion to what there is now. Like, with people who are mixed race, they'll identify, like, mixed races that are more desirable versus less desirable.
Like they do now.
Yeah, but be more focused on, like, this race mixed with this race is good, but this race mixed with this race is bad.
Okay.
Like people who are like half white, half black, they'll be like, oh, that's good, versus like Asian and black, that's bad, maybe.
Yeah.
A schnoodle versus golden doodle. Basically.
Okay, yeah. That's good enough. Kelly, did you have anything?
I was going to say, even when people are mixed race, I mean, I know some people, like, I work with a guy who's half black, half Filipino, but he says that he's black and Filipino. And I have a nephew who's half white, half black, and he says that he's more black, is what he says. So I still think that, like, even though we're mixing, I think someone's still pulling to one way or the other. I think we have to be so mixed that you don't know what you are.
Right. Yeah. You may not, because some of the pictures at the end of the exercise blew my mind when I saw what their declared ethnicities were and then how they declared themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, going on to question number 2. An interesting element of Brazil's racial system is that people can be viewed as different races within the course of their lifetime, particularly if they have changed in social class. Race is seen as both an achieved and an ascribed status. Do you think that race in America has the potential to be this type of system? Why or why not? I answered that all ethnicities seem to be assigned to a particular place in the ethnic hierarchy. In one case, it could be a benefit for a single mother with dependent children to be African American to help with better subsidized housing, but it could also be to her benefit to be biracial for entrance into a college program to get a better job. Like Marty was just saying, whatever works for them at the time is what they can go with.
I think a good example is looking at President Obama. I'm sorry, a lot of people have said all during the election that he was not a black man. But as soon as he became president, he was the first African-American president we ever had. It's like, oh my gosh, make up our minds. Is he black or is he not black?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Raquel, were you going to say something?
Is he mixed, or
Oh, yeah.
were they just talking about his, like, personality, or?
I can't remember what he is.
His mother was white from Kansas, and his father was African American from
Kenya.
Kenya. Yeah.
That's right. I was like, Cambodian? No.
It's funny, I actually had a conversation with one of my friends like 3 days ago, and he's half black and half white, and he's like, when he always said that when he's with his white friends, he's considered black, but when he's with his black friends, he's considered white. So it's just like people just struggle to identify him. And like he doesn't know which one he feels more, because I asked him because I was curious, because we are taking this class, and I was like, oh, I could probably use this eventually. But he said he didn't even know what to identify himself because people were so torn with him, he couldn't decide himself.
That's crazy.
So we were talking about this at work today. I work with a young man. His name is Alex Juarez, and he's got a half brother who is half Caucasian and half Mexican, from Mexico, Hispanic. And he says when he comes to...
He's what ethnicity again? I'm sorry, Marty.
He's from Mexico, Mexican,
Okay.
Hispanic. So he says when his half brother's at his house, he's totally 100% Mexican around everybody in his family. And then he went to visit him in New Jersey, where his other half of his family is from. And he said, you wouldn't even know he had any Hispanic in him. The guy is totally white. I just laughed.
Wow.
I wonder how much that has to do with like the culture of the families. You know, like when he's around his Hispanic family, it's probably like rude of him to not like do more Hispanic like things. I don't know.
That's a really good point, Kel. I never thought about the family makeup contributing to how they feel.
I have a coworker who's Hispanic, and her husband is, I think he's Lebanese. No, I don't know what he is. He's Arab of some sort. And she was telling me the differences of like when they go to her family's house and to his family's house, and how she must greet his parents by kissing their hands. Like she has to go over and greet them that way, and they do different things because of their culture.
Wow.
So I'm just curious as to how much of that is like, you know, her husband doesn't go around kissing all elderly people on the hand, but then when you get to the house, he does.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I never thought about family culture entering into the identity mix.
I think my favorite example of that is My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I'm sorry, I'm going to bring in a movie here. What do you mean you don't eat no meat? It's all right. I make you lamb. I don't know if you guys got to see that movie.
Yeah. Windex fixes everything, my friend.
That's right. That's right. And I just think of his mom and dad when they came to their very Greek household where the whole entire family's there, and he's a single kid in a very Caucasian family, and they are sitting on the couch totally terrified. It's great. I love that show.
Here's a question, kind of going off what Kelly was just talking about. I'm still fascinated by that. What would happen if, say, you've got a Black Hispanic child? How would the child's Hispanic parent feel if he told them he identified as Black and totally blew off the other half of his ethnicity?
Kind of along that lines. My aunt and uncle were able to adopt my cousin, who I think I've told you about him before. He's half Chinese, a quarter Japanese, and a quarter African American. And in the Chinese culture, like that's like really frowned upon to mix races. And she had my cousin has an older sister, and the family accepted her because she's a girl, and in the Chinese culture, the women really don't matter as much. And they never accepted my cousin because he was mixed race. Like they wouldn't allow him to be over at their house. Like it was a disgrace to the family that he wasn't full Chinese. So his mom ended up giving him up for adoption at 3 because it was so hard on her. So
in regards to that, it depends on the background of the family, because there's some Chinese who are see marrying out of the race as like moving up a social class, and others who are very traditional about just keeping the bloodline pure.
Wow.
Like my dad is Korean and my mom's Singaporean, and when my dad married my mom, he got disowned from his family for a while because he didn't marry a Korean. But my friend, she's half Korean and half white, and her mom is Korean, and her family was ecstatic when she married a white man. And one of my best friends is half Chinese, half white, and her dad is Chinese and her mom is white. But their family was also really happy that he was marrying into, or she was marrying into, a family that was white because she could get American citizenship and because they view Americans as powerful.
Oh, is the glass half empty or is the glass half full? Wow.
I think the glass is just shattered and there's water everywhere.
I'm beginning to think that. Yeah, it took a BB or something. Yeah, that is amazing. That is some crazy stuff. That is some crazy, crazy stuff. Well, did you guys get a chance to look at the pictures at the end of the lesson?
I was even looking at them, but I couldn't figure out how to log in to see what they identified as.
Oh, you just clicked on the picture. Either. Yeah, just click on the picture and the individual picture of the person, and it tells you their name, their age, and where they're from. A little more than I'd like out there, but.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess what's happening.
Because I just saw the cover of the magazine, but it wouldn't let me click in on anything.
Mine says something about I have to disable some blocker or something, and I don't know how to do that. I've been trying to follow the instructions, and I can't figure it out.
Well, I was prepped for that too, and I didn't have to. It just took me right to the picture, so I just, looked at them and, clicked on them and went for it.
One of my favorite experiences was I went to a respiratory therapy conference in New Orleans. And while I was in New Orleans, I've told you guys about the 10-foot pole, I know. But this is a whole nother subject. I met some Creole people, and people that are Creole are as Caucasian as I've ever seen. They're just plain old white people, but you don't tell them they're white because they are black, and they identify as black because that's what their ancestry is. And so it's kind of an interesting thing to be around people who identify so strongly as something, and when you look at them, they physically don't look it, but it's in their family. So
That's really funny. That's wow.
you can't always judge a book by its cover.
Well, no, and some of these pictures just really blew my mind. There were 25 pictures. I only got 7 of them right. I mean, some of them, there was one, I think it was a woman that I identified as Caucasian and Asian American. But there was Chinese in there, but also Swedish and French. Would have never seen that.
Wow.
Would have never seen that. There was I think it was a young man that I identified as Asian American. No, where is it? Where'd he go? No, African American. But he also identified his ethnicity as Native American and Jewish. Missed that one. But the one I really had to laugh at, I gotta find this. Where'd he go? Oh, here we go. Okay. A young man, I identified him as Latino. Okay. But he also said that he's Eastern European, Puerto Rican, Jewish, and here's the clincher, Texan.
Oh, okay.
I thought, okay, we could go there. Texas has kind of got its own thing going on. That was pretty funny.
I think I saw a statistic that it was like people from Texas are the most like patriotic about their state.
Apparently, they've got their own ethnicity.
Well, Texas is the only state in the Union that can fly its flag at the same level as the United States flag because they reserved in their Constitution the right to separate and to be their own country.
Wow.
So they have and it's all written that if they choose to, then it's all acceptable, and that's why they call themselves the Lone Star State.
Okay.
Look at
My grandma's from Texas.
history lesson.
Yeah, but Marty was right though. Looking at all these pictures of all these different people, I mean, if you look, I had to look at several of them for quite a while to try to, zero in. Not even close. Not even close. So does anybody else have anything? Because there weren't, I mean, there was some stuff we needed to do before, like, read the article and check out the pictures and stuff. But I mean, there were some really interesting questions, I thought, for this as appeared to correlate with Brazil. I think Brazil just sold them a can of hooey because I don't see that there's a whole lot of difference between the United States and Brazil.
Well, and I felt that way about South Africa and the United States. I never knew that there was so much animosity among nations until I was reading about South Africa and the Comancheros and now Brazil. Here I thought this was a problem that was kind of unique to us, and basically just about everywhere you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, but I'm beginning to wonder too if, as humans, we seem to have this burning desire to pigeonhole and categorize everybody, and we as a race, the human race, we can't seem to get away from that. You have to go in this cubby. You have to go in this cubby. You don't fit either one. Where do you go? I mean, it just seems to be hardwired into us.
Well,
Oh, I'm stupid. I just figured out how to use this picture thing.
It's pretty interesting though, right, Raquel?
Does yours show you like the whole magazine?
No, I just clicked on the picture and it just kind of, not quite full screen, but it enlarged the photo from the group and told you their name, their age, where they're from, what their ethnicity is, and how they identified on the census.
Okay, I still did something wrong.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with it too. So.
Yeah, it let me in just first click, so that was kind of interesting.
I can do it like a couple times, and then it says, "Oh no."
Kelly, what do you see when you first click on like the website link?
Hang on, I have to do it again. I just got kicked out of it.
Do you just see like a picture of like the front of the magazine?
It's like a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I see.
So that's what
And
I
then, but
see
if you
too.
click on, if you
And
click
if I
on one of
click
their
it,
faces,
it's like the first page of the magazine.
oh, I just clicked.
Well, like if I click
I
the
don't click
sidebar
more.
at the top little section.
Oh no, like actually click a picture. Like pick
Oh,
someone's face.
it doesn't
On their face.
It just lets me move it around.
Oh.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting too how in Brazil how they want to whiten their population, which that does not strike me as equal. If there's something wrong with being that and you have to be whitened, that I don't think they're being true to themselves. I think that population has really bought a line, hook, line, and sinker.
They're different.
Yeah. Anyway.
Isn't Brazil like the #1 plastic surgery in the world? Plastic surgery.
It could be.
I think so.
It could be.
They want to change their physical features.
Wow. Well, that's kind of like tattoos or body art. I don't see the need for it. I know the church is opposed to it, but I think if Heavenly Father would have wanted that, that's what he would have done. And eventually the clock's going to catch up with you anyway.
Now listen, you're stepping on my right for individuality when you tell me I can't do my tat. I'm sorry, I'm teasing. I don't have any tattoos either, but that's what I hear from people at work. I'm expressing my individuality.
So
we're done.
My dad has like 10 or 11 tattoos, and he always is like, "Oh, I don't regret any of my tattoos." I'm like, "No," and he's like, "No." I'm like, "So his first one he had maybe like 25 years ago," and I said, "Are you sure?" And he said, "Yes," and I said, "You have a shark chasing dolphins yin yang tattoo," and he goes, "Yeah." I said, Did you hear what I said? You have a yin yang tattoo on you. He was like, "So?" And
I
I'm
like
yeah,
that. That's kind of cute.
I said, "You should be embarrassed."
You know, one of the funniest things that I heard about tattoos, one of my kids had a PE teacher at school and in high school, and he was wearing ankle length socks on his tennis shoes. They were sitting in the bleachers one day, and it was kind of first day of semester, second day, whatever. And he said, "Okay, if anybody's got any questions, go ahead and ask." Well, one of the students saw a visible tattoo on the outside of one of his ankles that the sock didn't cover. And the student said, "Oh, what is that tattoo?" She said, "What is that on the outside of your ankle?" And he looked down at it and he looked up at her and he said, "A mistake." I thought, whoa, dude, own it. Just totally own it. Anyway, should I stop this broadcast if we
Yeah, sure.
talk this? Okay, we're going to stop this.